What I'll outline, these were sort of our principles and our strategies, and I think they sort of transcend our work in a lot of ways. First we start with a premise. The premise is that people aren't apathetic. I think that's a general conception, is that people don't care about politics. And to that I make the point, I would ask everyone in the room to raise their hand if they just voted in this last primary, and to look around and acknowledge who had voted. Now I'd like anybody to raise their hand who didn't vote in the primary. Okay. Now I'd like anybody to raise their hand if they think that the amount of people who didn't vote was actually higher than people would offer. And so that works if a lot of people raise their hand. So point being is that there is still a feeling of civic responsibility. We still feel an obligation. Whether we do it or not, we're not proud of the fact that we don't. People don't rock like "Don't vote or die" shirts, you know. This is something that we feel. So we knew there was an opportunity there to tap into it. So these are sort of some of our principles. First, I don't know if there's any design people, but I'll speak a little bit about our design. And sort of the task there was to take a massive set of information, just a database of all that information I detailed before. And then if we had just put it up there, it would be a great resource. But it's far too daunting. It doesn't make sense. It needs to be organized. So the task then is to take that massive set of data and marry it with an inviting and intuitive design that will allow people to access the pieces of information out of that database that are personal and meaningful to them, what they're seeking. Next, we had to get the word to the right people. And so we realized quickly we didn't have a budget for a direct marketing campaign, which is very expensive. We weren't going to run banner ads anywhere. But we also didn't think that was most effective for what we were trying to do. We wanted people to hear about Glassbooth from their friend, or they read about it in the paper. A journalist had thought it was cool and had written about it. So really we did two things. First was really a PR hustle. We had a friend who worked at a PR firm, and she let us borrow her access to her sort of, it's called Bacon, it's like a LexisNexis for journalist contact information. The catch there is that you can't use it while they're working. So generally from the hours of 12 a.m. to 4, Robert's pulling as much information out of it as possible. From the hours of 4 to 5, we're putting together a press release and a mail merge and sending it out. And then from the hours of 9 until 12 that morning, we're following up with all the journalists we had just emailed. And this was the hustle to get out the word. And in some ways, you know, it was successful. Really, it was a great experience to just learn what it takes and why you really do need a PR firm to take on. It's a huge amount of work. The second is we wanted you to hear about it from your friends. So we tried to, in as many ways possible, create an environment where Glassbooth would take off virally, where people would send it to people they know. So we put different tools on the site, email to a friend. We got the Facebook groups going off and getting everybody involved there and starting to spread the word through each other. Third, I'd say build trust capital. What we were doing is really sensitive. I think today, politics is very polarized. People are very sensitive that the information they're receiving has a certain slant on it or a certain bias. And people are very wary of who is communicating political information to them. So for us to be effective in any way, we needed to be trusted. You needed to come in and recognize that we have no agenda, that this is what we're about, and non-bias has to be a core part of what we do. So the 501c3, the nonprofit, that's part of that. If we are in any way biased or partisan, the IRS yanks our status. So we have the oversight from the IRS that we will build this in the public's trust. Two, just the process was built with non-bias. The wording, if you've done Glassbooth, and we'll get to it if you haven't, every wording of a question, there's so much politically charged language. How do you, certain language has been occupied by different political interests, and we need to make sure that's the most accurate and non-biased language. So we partnered with a survey research group at Harvard, and they helped us out. And then just heuristically, it had to be non-biased. We can't be pointing you to different directions. And I'll say, I think this was the most successful part of our entire organization. We're just near launch, and with those principles of success, we had sort of outlined that that we would be successful if we could accomplish those three things and roll those strategies out. And I remember right before we launched, my roommate's girlfriend was like, she hadn't heard of Glassbooth. She says, I've spent the last few hours with my roommate looking at all the candidates' positions on abortion, and it's taken 5 hours, and I haven't come to any conclusions. And this is sort of where we fit in, is that people want this, and there's a void, and we're stepping in. Consider there's a Pew poll that came out right around our launch that said 77% of Americans, a large majority, want more information about where the candidates stand on the issues in their news coverage. This is the vast majority of news consumers telling, news organizations that they want more information that we're providing. So in that sense, we felt that if we could be successful at those principles, we could tap that market, and we could be successful and popular.